Good afternoon, councillors and staff, members of the gallery, and welcome to the September 2021 Armadale Regional Council monthly meeting. I'd ask you to be upstanding, please. Call on Councillor Bailey to recite the civic affirmation, please.
We, the Councillors of the Armadale region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of Councillor in the best interest of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretion vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Councillor O'Brien, the affirmation, the Acknowledgement of Country, thanks.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Armadale Regional Council pays tribute to their love of land, love of people and love of culture.
Thank you. Councillors and staff, please remain standing. Last Tuesday, an Armadale and national icon, Kathleen or Kathy Partridge, passed away and she was interred yesterday. She's Armadale's greatest Olympian, our only ever gold medal winner at the Seoul Olympics in hockey. But she achieved a great deal more in her life, and that'll be the subject of a mayoral minute to the October Council meeting. Today, we convey our sincere condolences to her loved ones and family, which includes our own Councillor Marat and his family. So let's now observe a moment's silence in her memory. Cetius, Altius, Fortius. Faster, higher, stronger. That's the original Olympic motto on the foot of the screen. Vale, Kathy. Thank you. The General Manager, please, the statement in relation to live.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. And just a quick check around mobile phones. If you've got a mobile phone, can you please turn it to silent? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. At our last council meeting, which was a Zoom event, we welcomed our new Chief Officer Sustainable Development, Daniel Boyce. I'm going to do it again because we can now do it in person. So I'm welcoming Daniel again. And today we have an addition to the list of senior staff, and I refer to and welcome Alex Menners, who's the Chief Officer, Assets and Services, and he hails from Tamworth. So we should be delighted that we now have, with our General Manager and 3 directors, a full complement of senior staff, and I welcome you all on board upon behalf of my colleagues. No apologies, applications for leave of absence, any disclosure of interest, councillors?
I've put my disclosure of interest in, and it's to do with our closed session. Thank you.
Item 15.1, thank you. The nature of your interest, councillor?
Non-pecuniary, want to stay in here.
Thank you. Any other declarations, councillors? No? Thank you. Moving to the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting 25th of August, which have been circulated. Is someone prepared to move those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Robinson moving, Councillor Marat seconding. Any concerns? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried unanimously. There are today 4 mayoral minutes, councillors, and I apologise that 3 of them are late, but it took some getting them together. The first is at 6.1 and it's the General Manager's performance review item. I move the recommendation on page 4, and on behalf of my council, the council, I convey congratulations to you, Mr. General Manager, on your excellent performance since your arrival here on the 10th of January this year. You've displayed a high degree of competence, experience, commitment, leadership and compassion, and councillors are most appreciative of your support and your capacity to listen and to advise. You've achieved a great deal in a few months, but much more is still to be achieved, and you've set very high standards to maintain. I'd like to thank my committee members, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Morat, for their support and engagement in the review process. That's much appreciated. So congratulations, Mr. General Manager, very well done. Did the Deputy Mayor wish to say something? Thank you.
I'd just like to support you, Mr. Mayor, in this support for Mr. James Roncon, the General Manager. It's been wonderful after many, I suppose, years of difficulties here to have somebody of his calibre and his character, and it's a relief to all of us, and we thank you very much and congratulations on your report.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. I'll now put the motion on page 4. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. To item 6.2, mayoral minute relating to the 2021 New England Northern Inland Volunteer of the Year Awards. The purpose of this minute was to make sure that the wider community became aware of A, the winners, and B, how well Armadale fared in this awards. In that we scored all of the 4 awards that were given, and I referred to Michael Keane from Community Radio and Community Radio itself, 2ARM, and we have a director of 2ARM with us today in Rob Richardson, and we ask that you convey to your radio station our congratulations. And of course the senior and also the overall winner was Gretel, that's right, Gretel Kempster, and she was quite amazing. So the recommendation which I moved is to convey congratulations to those people, and I think I can put that. Thank you. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried. The next matter is the formation of a Armadale Community Task Force to address the First Nation men's behavioural change program. I move the recommendation, and the purpose of this report is that Council received an invitation for the Mayor to participate, and I think we'd all agree it's important that this be ongoing beyond the life of this Council, so the recommendation includes that the Mayor of the day, or perhaps the Council might wish for some other delegate, but I just want it to be ongoing, and I'm sure you'd concur with that. So can I put that recommendation? I can. Thank you very much. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried. The final mayoral minute is a very serious matter, and I'm sure you've all read this, and I took a bit of time researching it. I listened to a webinar run by Local Government New South Wales, Linda Scott. I move the recommendation, and I can say to you that I spoke to our local parliamentary representative about this at another venue last week, and he was unaware that this was happening, which tells me that there's a degree of stealth, and that's not good. But more importantly, the potential impact on our ratepayers if they lose a swathe of developer contributions will be horrific, and it's just not on as the bill stands and I'm sure you'd agree with that. Is there anyone would like to make some comment on this? Councillor
Yes.
O'Connor and then Councillor O'Brien.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I would absolutely support your mayoral minute in this regard. Just for the benefit of the public who may be watching, this is an attempt to bring in a bill in October which has been not recommended by the Upper House Review Committee, which will see quite a proportion of developer contributions which normally stay within council and go to ensure that when developers put new things in a local government area, they make a contribution of cash, which then goes to support the infrastructure that's necessary to support the impact of the development that they bring, extra cars, traffic, the need for other things in it. And absent of this bill, councils, each and every council has the absolute discretion to, within the law, to use that money. This bill proposes to confiscate a proportion of that money and take it back to the coffers of the state government's treasury, and then leave the dispersing of those funds at their initiative, and with no requirement for them to ensure that that money is repatriated exactly to the local government area that generated those funds. Mr. Mayor, I would just like to say that I would call this not just cost shifting, I would call this the most ruthless and disgraceful cash grab at what is the most overworked, underfunded sector of government in our country, which is local government. This is a disgrace, and I'm so disappointed that our parliamentarians in Macquarie Street, the state parliamentarians, would contemplate this for even a moment. And I absolutely support this, and I think the community needs to know about it and to know that at the moment our current local member is part of the government that is proposing this, and it would therefore be appropriate for the community's feelings to be communicated quite clearly to our local member.
Yep, thank you very much. I've already given our local member a copy of the mayoral minute, and there'll be media about this in the next day. So, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. I would also like to support Mr. Mayor and Councillor O'Connor in this, and I'd like to draw the attention to everyone here and the community to the main issue that was raised with the Deputy Premier Barilaro this week at a meeting with country mayors, which I attended, was the shortage, the looming urgent shortage of housing and infrastructure because of the unprecedented move from people from the city to the country. And the suggestion by Mr. Barilaro that local government should be part of the solution, partnering with state government and private enterprise to address this urgency, whereas this bill does restrict our capacity to address it completely. It's an attack on the sovereignty and the finances of local government, and it's a way for us to bear all the burden and none of the decision making. Development levies should be spent where they are raised, and we should decide what our priorities are. So I commend this motion, and thank you.
Thank you for that support. I propose to put the motion, which is on your screen. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move to the 8 series now. There's only 3 of them, and I'm aware that 8.3 needs to be called for the purpose of allocating delegates. Does anyone wish to call 8.1? Yes, Councillors Robinson and O'Connor. And 8.2 is the review of the IP&R documents. Not called. Councillor, that's a statutory requirement, Councillor Robinson. Okay, and 8.3 you have to deal with. So we've got to deal with them seriatim. 8.1, notice of intention to vary performance improvement order. The General Manager and I were both served legal documents from the Office of Local Government under Section 438, extending the PIO to the election date, 4th of December. So we've got no room to manoeuvre in relation to this. So I'm looking for a mover of 8.1 on page 7. Councillor
I'd like to move it with a very, very minor alteration to part 2. and which will just add in, note the position of the financial controller and temporary advisor, comma, costing $15,000 per month plus travel expenses, comma, will continue through to the 4th of December 2021. So I'm just adding in the cost of the estimated cost.
Is that motion seconded? It's Councillor O'Brien, I think. It's your motion, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I realise this is a very important thing that we comply with the PIO and we have no room to manoeuvre. But the reason for the slight amendment is simply to increase transparency and provide the community with the answer to the question that was asked at the pre-meeting briefing so that everybody knows where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The seconder wish to speak? No? Any opposition? Okay.
I just want to voice
I can't allow three speakers for,
No, I'm not.
really.
No, I'm opposing.
You're opposing, okay.
I'm opposing the nature of the presentation to us suggests that we are obliged in some way to assent to this or to note it. I think we've basically been given the information that our hands are tied here, but I absolutely support Councillor Dr. Robinson's amendment. I think it needs to be made absolutely clear that through no fault of this community, but only because of the outbreak of the Delta variant in Sydney and the difficulties down there in terms of controlling it, that the local government elections have been extended to the 4th of December from the 4th of September, and purely as a result of that dilemma in Sydney, this council and these ratepayers in Armadale Regional Council are required to fund this 3-month extension. There's no question that this council and the governing body of it as well have diligently respected the performance improvement order, met all the requirements, and my view is that it's completely unfair for this any additional expense that is implicated or arises as a result of this extension to be borne by the Armadale Regional Council's ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe I can put the motion, which is on your screen. All those in favour? To the contrary? Carried unanimously. 8.2, review of the IP&R reporting documents. You're aware that there's been a little bit of email traffic about this item, and I think there's agreement to add a second a second key principle about recognition of climate change risk. I think Councillor Robinson called this and she wanted to insert the third part, which I think is on the screen as background information. Yes, the motion in 3 parts is on your screen, and I think you called it, Councillor.
Yes,
Councillor
yeah,
Robinson.
I'd like to move it as on the screen.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is it seconded? Councillor O'Brien. First of all, is there any opposition? I don't think so. Do you wish to speak briefly, even though there's no opposition, Councillor Robinson?
Yeah, I'll just speak very, very briefly. And first of all, about the key principle in the community strategic plan, that it should be based on recognition of climate change as an overarching risk across all elements of the quadruple bottom line, and we should be taking appropriate mitigation and adaptation strategies. So that's basically a no-brainer, and our General Manager, James Roncon, agreed that it was a no-brainer, but it's still worth putting in just to say that we do support this and that we declared a climate emergency, and therefore let's just express our support in this way. And the same thing for the master plan. The master plan 2040 followed a very, very similar consultation process just only about 18 months ago to what we are proposing to do for the community strategic plan. And I remember seeing some great submissions and forum comments, and they were so useful that some members of the Climate Emergency Working Group copied and saved all those contributions in the forum and I can't now find them on Council's website. So I hope we can actually just preserve them for perpetuity so that anybody who's interested in looking what we've done before can use that as a way of starting the consultation process on the community strategic plan. Thank you. I commend this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't detect any opposition, so I propose to put the three-part motion as on your screen. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 8.3 refers to the upcoming, I think it's virtual, LG New South Wales Annual Conference. There's a recommendation in 5 parts. If we can adopt that, we'll then move to the appointment of delegates. So, Councillor O'Connor, are you moving the 5 parts?
Yes, I'm happy to move.
Thank
the
you.
5 parts.
Thank you. Is it seconded? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. No opposition. Put the motion. All those in favour. To the contrary, carried. Now, Part A of the now adopted motion indicates that the Mayor and 2 councillors are to be appointed to the 1-hour local government conference online, 29th of November, 5 days before the election. That's handy. It's up to you people now to nominate 2 councillors other than myself to attend that 1-hour video conference. And I'd like to think we can all sit in the one room, perhaps, for that. Is that okay? Perhaps? Yep, okay. Because there'll be some issues there that we might need to, dare I use the word caucus, but we're there representing the interests of Armadale, and it'd be good if we're all in accord. Well, it is a bit suspicious, I acknowledge that, but we have to do the best for our people. So, Councillor O'Connor has a hand raised. You'd like to nominate?
I would like to nominate, but I'm happy to nominate Councillor O'Brien if we need to nominate each other.
We have the need for 2 councillors, so you're nominating yourself.
Okay.
Look, don't be shy, folks. Who'd like to do it? You'd like to do it? Well, there's only a space for, if you want to, if you need to vote. Okay, I've got 3 nominations from Councillors O'Connor, Robinson and O'Brien to fill 2 positions. We can either have you go into a huddle and eliminate one of yourselves, or we can have an open ballot.
We can go into a hut.
Excuse me.
No, we can do that.
Okay, no cross chat. I'll formalise this. We have 3 nominations. We'll have a show of hands. Gentlemen, is the best way to do this? A show of hands in favour of the candidate you wish. And the person with the lowest number of hands raised is excluded. Is that okay? Right. Those in favour of Councillor O'Connor? 5? No. Vote for everyone. Yeah, well. Yes, we can only vote once, can't we? I don't think this is going to work. We might be best to draw up a ballot paper. Yes, that seems to be getting some nodding heads. There's no dissension from that? Okay. So, by virtue of your position as Deputy Mayor, you're the second delegate. We need one more. Now we can have a show of hands. Those in favour, Councillor O'Connor? 3, 4. That's the majority. So, Councillor O'Connor is the other delegate. Thank you, councillors. You up with me? Right, okay. Moving to the 9 series, which I now call 9.1, the draft financial statements referring to audit. 9.2, public exhibition of renewable energy policy. Councillor Robinson. 9.3, Black Summer Bushfire Grant submissions. Councillor Bailey. 9.4, the approval for variation of Kempsey Road slip restoration. 9.5, debt recovery policy, hardship policy. 9.6, cash and investment report. I'll take a motion to adopt by consent 9.1, 4, 5 and 6. Councillor Morat, seconded. Councillor O'Connor. No opposition. Put the motion. All those in favour. To the contrary, carried unanimously. Councillor Robinson called 9.2, public exhibition of renewable energy policy on page 22. Thank you, Councillor.
I'd like to move the motion and just also...
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm really pleased that you moved the motion first. That's good. So it's been moved by Councillor Robinson that we endorse the renewable strategy for public exhibition. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor O'Brien. Your motion, Councillor Robinson.
I'd just like to congratulate Council on this very important initiative, and that I hope all the community members will look at the draft policy and send in their comments. And also note that there will be a further strategy developed underneath the policy that may also provide, and which I believe our General Manager talked about this morning on the radio. So let's wait expectantly for the developments. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder wish to speak? No? No opposition? I put the motion as on page 22 that we endorse. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Bailey, 9.3, the summer bushfire grant submissions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a great opportunity for this community to grow economically, and I would support the recommendation coming forward from the staff as a whole, and I think we all know the need for...
Just before you go on, you're moving the six-part recommendation on page 26, okay?
Yep.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Morat. Your motion, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Lower Creek Community Hall, I mean, they were really severely affected by the bushfires, and an evacuation centre and a community hall is a vital piece of enhancement to the infrastructure down there, so that's one. Two, the Ebor Trout Festival. It's a community on the edge of our ARC area, and I'm sure that a trout competition out there in 2022 and 2023 can draw many a person to the Ebor area, and I think it's a worthwhile investment. The Big Chill Festival 2022-2023, once again, highly successful. Congratulations to our event staff and Darren Schaefer for bringing it together. It was successful, and we should continue to build on that. The portable stage and exhibition trailer, well, this has got Andrew Murat written all over, because he was the one that actually proposed and designed initially a portable stage, and it does make sense that when we're doing events such as Big Chill or other events around the region, that we can take a portable stage with us, which would make life a lot easier. So thank you, Councillor Murat, and I would endorse that. The Gaia Preschool, let's just say that the service of the Gaia Preschool in a new facility would be significantly enhanced over what is an old railway workers' hut or building, which is small and...
Station master's residence.
Paul Station Master. And
No cross chat, please, councillors. Address your remarks.
so I would absolutely endorse that. That to me is vital. The Guyra community is growing. I was talking to someone in Guyra today. There's 4 new shops opened up there, and we've got to support them. Costas are expanding. Their staff require those sorts of facilities, so we've got to continue to support them, so that will be the next one. The New England Rail Trail, well, I think we've debated it backwards and forwards, and it's a policy of this council, and to me it makes good sense to go forward and try and obtain the funding. What must be remembered, this was always thought about for Gyra, but what impact, if we do get the funding, will it have on the mall? Will it have on the East Mall? Will it have on the shops in this city, with more tourists coming into here and then venturing north? I think it has significant advantages, and I'm excited about the project. I don't believe there'll be significant running costs in the first few years because it will be newly fenced, it will have a new base to the surface, and basically we're talking about a bit of slashing and weed control. The Tumbarumba Rosewood Rail Trail has produced 18,000 visitors in its first 12 months, and it's less than 30 kilometres long, and 9 new businesses have opened. What a wonderful thing we could do for this community, for the Gyra community, Ben Lomond, by supporting this recommendation to go forward. So that's my basis on which we should support it. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm aware that Councillor Morat seconded it and he has the right to speak, but you, Councillor O'Connor, and also Councillor Robinson, I know, are wanting to say things. I'm aware that there may be an amendment. It's already on the screen, and I would allow someone to move an amendment if they wish to at this stage before I call on Councillor Morat.
I'd just like to make a procedural proposal that item number 6, the New England Rail Trail, be dealt with separately to the other items.
No, I can't agree to that. We've got a motion on the floor which has been spoken to. Councillor Robinson, I'm aware that the amendment on the screen is yours. Do you wish to move that amendment by adding it to?
Amendment and add it to the motion.
Thank you very much. Is that addition to the motion, which is on your screen, we'll call it number 7, is that acceptable to the mover? It is. Thank you very much. Acceptable to the seconder? Thank you. So it's now incorporated in the original motion. That's part 7. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, why can't we do the procedural motion? I don't understand.
It wasn't a motion, thank you. It was a statement.
Is it a procedural motion? She's asked for a procedural motion.
We won't have cross-chat. Okay, I'll go with you. You're moving that item 6 be dealt with separately. Okay, is it seconded? It is. All those in favour? Against? 4 against, it's lost. And the voting was Councillors O'Connor, Robinson and O'Brien in favour, and the other 4 councillors were against. So we're back to the original motion with the addition of part 7, and I'm up to the seconder, offering him the right to speak to the motion if he wishes. Councillor Morat.
All I'd like to do is point out that our applications here are totally oversubscribed, and if we get even some of these items across the line, it'd be fantastic, and I support Councillor Bailey's thoughts on the items that have been put up there. Thank you.
Thank you. We've had 2 speakers for. Is there a speaker against the motion? Councillor O'Connor, excuse me, no cross-chat, please. It's hard enough. Were you wishing to speak?
I believe that Councillor Robinson wants to make an amendment which I think will be unexceptional, and I would like to for her to do that, and then I wish to speak against the motion.
So, Councillor Robinson, you were the author of this item 7. Is there something else that you wanted to do?
Can't you?
Look, excuse me, let's be careful here. We've got a motion. There's been an addition to the motion by consent, and we've had 2 speakers for. I'm looking for a speaker against the motion. Councillor O'Connor.
Well, it pains me deeply that I have to speak against the entire motion because I support items 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5 and item 7. I do not support item 6, and here are my reasons. We know that we are in a parlous financial situation on this council, and I quote from advice that we've been given that we are facing a projected funding shortfall of in the vicinity of 7.8 million just for core operational and capital service level asset renewals going forward. We're looking down the tube. If we maintain our statutory obligations of 100% asset renewal ratios at trying to entice our ratepayers who are already profoundly hit by drought, the triple whammy, drought, bushfires, COVID, still in recovery from all of those, outcomes unknown, we look at having to ask them for a 40% increase in rate revenue. We're facing an attack from the state government trying to take some of our developer contributions straight down to the New South Wales Treasury. There's talk of fencing to the tune of $10 million. That will generate $1 million roughly per annum of additional depreciation funds that we've got to find and put on our bottom line if this goes ahead. There's just no way that this project number 6 can do anything other than unfairly and improperly burden the entire residents of the local government area, this local government area, in order to promote something quite dubious. I do call on Councillor Bailey to provide evidence of his statement that he's made in relation to the Rosewood Tumbarumba rail trail. I question the accuracy of that. I have here a letter from Sam Faraway, MLC, sent to me, signed off 17th of August. In that letter, Mr. Faraway, the Honourable MLC Faraway states that the New South Wales Government is currently conducting a review of the 2 pilot rail trail projects that have gone ahead in New South Wales, the Tumbarumba to Rosewood 1 and Stage 1 of the Northern Rivers Rail Trail. My view is that until that review is undertaken, we really have got no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the purely speculative statements about the benefits that a rail trail may bring. I mean, sure, it may bring, but there's just been no hard data on this whatsoever, and it's just foolhardy in my view. I know it's very popular, we're very divided on this, but in my view it's fiscally utterly foolhardy to even name this as a potential project. The notion, the Honourable Sam Faraway stated that assessment criteria for it would include providing evidence of local support and participation in the process. Well, I question that that's happened either here for the particular proposal or in Glen Innes at all. And in fact, I would state, and I'm happy to be challenged on this, that there's been no proper consultation on the project that's been proposed, and there certainly hasn't been anything like the overwhelming support that this letter states. The New South Wales Government supports rail trails on disused rail lines where there is a business model in place. Overwhelming community support and biosecurity and land access issues have been addressed. They haven't. And neither has the question of safety, and neither has there been any proper advice given to this council in relation to economic benefits or cost benefits. And I might add that the decision to endorse this was not made by a democratically elected representatives of this council, but in fact by the temporary administrator, the temporary interim administrator, Mr. Viv May, and there's just been a complete absence of kind of brain power focused on this very, very critical financial decision. So I could go on. I don't intend to, other than to say I just can't support now because of the procedural outcome of that vote. I can't support any of it. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Right on 5 minutes. Is there a speaker for? Another speaker against? Councillor O'Brien.
Two things really. We're asking for money to build on a corridor that we have not yet any rights over, and it hasn't even been put before Parliament. And my word from the shadow ministers that I speak to, there's no word of it being put before Parliament. And the other thing is the overwhelming community support. I wish I had evidence for that, because I'd love to go with what the community wanted, but I have not seen any evidence of overwhelming community support. And until I do, I don't support number 6, which means I can't support any of it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bailey, right of reply?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm always interested in the opponents to the rail trail. They're obviously great believers in recycling, because we're in a situation where we have debated it. As councillors, we have passed the resolution. We've even had to have the motion recommitted twice when they objected and it went back up again. So we have debated it. We have gone forward with it. A burden of the ARC ratepayers? Well, that's probably a bit unfortunate, but I don't believe that, because I believe it will generate sufficient income from people onto the rail trail. You only have to visit Tasmania, Queensland and Victoria to see the impact that rail trails are having on regional towns. It's not an aberration to see that there are rail trails going on in Victoria and going ahead quickly. They're also available and moving quickly in Tasmania. We've got some friends that have just come back from riding there. You're going to go through Europe and see a man who addressed our Rotary Club who rode on rail trails from the tip of Scotland all the way down to the bottom of England. And there are people all over them. There are people using rail trails. I was asked to provide evidence of the numbers and the impact on the Tumbarumba to Rosewood, and I'll happily do that. I don't carry them with me at the moment. We're in a situation where the rail trail is already starting to be built from Glen Innes to Ben Lomond. So let's give it an extension and move it down here, because it will have an impact on Armadale, because we'll be a starting point. It will have an impact on the mall. It'll have an impact on tourism. If you talk to the people down in the Tumbarumba area, they'll tell you B&Bs have opened, cafes have opened, and indeed one of the major opponents of the B&B, who was a farmer on the rail trail, has got a DA in to put 3 huts on his property because he's suddenly seen the impact of it. So we see that it does have benefit, and I would like to suggest that hopefully I'm right and proven right, and I look forward to ensuring that this becomes a valuable tourism tool and tourism initiative for this council. So I would actively encourage you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes the debate. I put the motion on your screen in 7 parts. All those in favour, please raise your hands. There's 5, Councillors Gallatley, Bailey, Robinson, Morat and Tiley. Those against, Councillors O'Connor and Councillor O'Brien. Thank you, Councillors. We move now to the 10 series, and I'll call these items. Partnership 10.1, Partnership Agreement between Service New South Wales and Council. 10.2, Request to waive fees, Gyra Showground use. Councillor Bailey. 10.3, the Highway Service Centre DA. It's called in 2 places, Councillors Bailey and Robinson. 10.4, the road closure, Wheat Street, Ben Lomond. 10.5, the sewer policy adoption. I'll take a motion to adopt by consensus items 10.1, 10.4, 10.5. Councillor Morat, seconded Councillor O'Brien. No opposition, put the motion. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried unanimously. Back to the Gyra Showground, item 10.2, called by Councillor Bailey. We're on page 47, Councillors, of your business paper. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm delighted to move this recommendation. I'm pleased to see the staff...
Thank you. We have a mover. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Morat. Your motion, Councillor.
I'm pleased to see that we're moving away from every time a group approaches us and asks for something for nothing, that we move to a situation where often we will waive 50% of the fees to show our commitment to the group, but also an expectation that we'll pay. I think that's probably the best solution and ensures that we can use money to support other community groups for various functions. If we keep on waiving fees, we are losing revenue. So I'd be happy to support and move this resolution.
Thank you. It's been seconded. Is there any opposition? If not, I propose to put the motion. All those in favour? To the contrary, it's carried unanimously. And to the next one, two councillors call this the Highway Service Centre DA. We might, as you've just had a go, I might let Councillor Robinson speak first. I take it you're moving the recommendation?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is it seconded? Councillor Bailey seconding it. Your motion, Councillor.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask whether there was any possibility of working with the developer to allow the centre to provide information for visitors about what's available in Armadale, because that might be a way of having a development on the outskirts, on the airport business park, and encouraging people, if they know all the wonderful things, all the wonderful attractions in Armadale, to come in and visit the place at the same time. And that could simply be a display of pamphlets or brochures, or if we want to be really, really up and make use of our digital economy, it could be a display board of an electronic notice board, which could perhaps have an option for online bookings and the ability to download information to phones or iPads. And I just thought I'd like to raise that as a possible opportunity. And
Thank you, Councillor, for the suggestion. I'm going to throw it to Mr Boyce on this one. As I presume you don't want it as an additional condition of consent.
No, I was just making it as an idea that maybe we could discuss that with the developer and see if we can see if it has legs.
Mr Boyce, got a comment, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Councillor, happy to take that on board, but it's certainly not something we could condition the approval in regard to. Thank you.
Okay.
Just an idea to raise.
Thank you, Councillor. The seconder wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor, this is a great program, a great opportunity for a business that will encourage people to stop here. And I think that, combined with Councillor Robinson's idea of a digital screen displaying tourism events and opportunities in the city, would be a great way to combine the two. I think it's a great opportunity that a developer has seen value in what we have done at the Eastside Business Park, and so I'm absolutely excited that we are moving forward, and this will be the second block that we sell. So great news. Thank you.
Thank you. I presume there's no opposition to this. That's the case. I therefore put the motion on your screen to adopt the officer's recommendation, which is on page 49, I think. No, it's not. It's at the foot of page 50. It's for approval. Can I put the motion? All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. There's one item in the 11 series, the Community Engagement Strategy Policy. It's for adoption. And we bear in mind that we've got a further report to next meeting, which will flesh out the way we do this. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 81? Councillor Robinson, thank you. And Councillor O'Connor is seconding it. We look forward to the next report, which will satisfy some of the questions that we asked on Monday evening. So can I put that motion? I can? Or do you wish to? Yes, okay. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. To the committee reports, 12.1, I understand Councillor Robinson had an issue she wanted to raise here, is that so? 12.1, your committee?
I just wanted to move the motion with a slight amendment to the second clause, which was to note the following recommendations from the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting, and endorse the principle that future recommendations of the committee for priorities and actions should consider...
Slowly, councillor, it's been typed. So it's up the top. Note the following recommendations
and endorse the principle...
And endorse the principle...
that future recommendations of the committee for priorities and actions...
Recommendations of the committee
for priorities and actions...
For priorities and actions...
should consider costs and benefits.
Should consider costs and benefits. Obviously, the view of one committee isn't binding on a future
Yeah,
committee, but you can make
obviously.
that suggestion.
It's just a principle that we're
Right.
endorsing.
Is
And it's really a motherhood principle, I think.
yeah, is someone willing to second that? Councillor O'Connor, is there opposition? Put the motion. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried unanimously. 12.2 is the Community Advisory Committee, the recommendation. Councillor O'Brien, it's your committee. Like to move that recommendation on page 86?
Yes, and I'd like to
I get a seconder first.
Oh,
Second in several
thank you.
places. Councillor Robinson.
couple of little things. I just first of all want to thank the General Manager and staff who really put in a lot of time and effort on this and came to the meetings, and the financial people came and gave advice all the way through it, and it was well communicated back and forth with the community members. But through the back and forth, I think we just missed one sentence, and I'm just wondering if it's possible to put that one sentence in, and that is, it really was I suppose, the germ of an idea that started the whole hardship policy going, and the sentence is, and it goes after in the continuing hardship section, where it says ratepayers and debtors that continue to experience hardship may apply for additional hardship considerations, and this will be considered on a case-by-case basis. In that section, I'd like to put, in some circumstances...
You've lost your chair.
I've lost my what?
Your chairperson. We adopted the policy back at page 35. You're talking now in the committee report and recommendation to council.
Yes.
So I'm lost. We've already dealt with the matter you're now talking about.
We've already dealt with the hardship policy.
Yes, at page 35 of your business paper, we adopted it by consent.
Okay, I missed it. Sorry.
Not to worry. But you can take it back through the committee process if you feel there's a need for change.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
All right, then I move.
so it's moved and seconded the recommendation to adopt to note the committee minutes of the 26th of August. All right. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried. That concludes the open section of the council meeting, and we'll take a motion to move into Committee of the Whole to consider a confidential matter. Councillor Robinson and Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried. We're now Can open council. The motion we now need, Mr GM, is...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. One item conducted in confidential, the supply, delivery and installation of multifunction printers and scanners to the Armadale Regional Council. By resolution, Council resolved as follows. The Council A accepts and endorses the tender submission from Inland Technology for a total amount of $344,520 GST inclusive, calculated at a monthly fee of $9,185 for a 3-year period. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve any additional costs or variables, specifically in additional multifunction printers or scanners, based on Council's future technological needs or requirements, should the business case and budget be available during the agreement period. C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documents in relation to the contract or agreement. And D, endorse the General Manager to delegate responsibility for monthly payment and contract management to the responsible area. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. That concludes the ordinary monthly meeting at 12 minutes past 5. Thank you for your attendance.